All right, so today I want to make a video on this tweet by Maxime Bernier. Now it's tied in with the whole pipeline. Well, I mean, it's technically a oil, and I thought it was very insightful, and he summed it up very good. So I'll read it and then I'll talk a little bit about it. He says, when your political media and academic elites tell you for years that your society is fundamentally racist, supremacist, unjust, oppressive, so on and so forth, and destructive of the environment, don't be surprised if radicalized groups of thugs think they're justified in trying to destroy it. Now, I think that was a very good way of putting it because the media is so biased, these schools are so biased, and you have these elitists that pump money and virtue signal their way into thinking that this stuff is more important. And like I say, they pump their money into it. And these kind of people that are doing these protests genuinely think, at least most of them, the ones that are Americans or out of province, there's no shortage of those people. Those kind of people are just there to push their political view. But a lot of these people genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing, that they're fighting for a just cause, when they really aren't. I mean, their reasoning for it to begin with doesn't make any sense. Climate change is not an issue whatsoever. In Canada, we have a struggling economy, and yet we have a federal government and the left in general who's trying to cripple our main way of being able to climb out of the poor economy we have, and that's through our natural resources. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Number one, they've staked so much of their reputation in climate change being this big issue that they can't really go back on it. And number two, it would be a sign of the free market working. And when you're on the left, you desperately can't have examples of, I mean, not that there isn't enough already, but you desperately can't have more examples of the free market working because that contradicts your whole political view. So that's kind of the main reasons that they're against it. But these kind of people are they think they're justified in doing something. I mean, the Wet'suwet'en, the overwhelming majority of their people weren't against it. I mean, I heard the number 80% cited. That number I'm pretty sure is accurate. Um, some of the elders there were paid off by the Tides Foundation, so if anything, that's a conservative estimate. If those kind of people were if it was an honest and objective thing, they have no reason to be against it because number one, it's money in their pocket. Number two, it's jobs for their people. If those people don't have jobs, guess what? They're just another person that's poor, probably may or may not have a job. If they do have a job, it's not as well paying of a job. They're just that much more likely to end up in prison, to end up, on drugs, all that kind of stuff that really sucks. And the natives are particularly susceptible to becoming, to having troubles with alcohol and drugs. And it's a genetic thing, I believe. And, if they can have a nice, well paying job, why would you not want to give it to them? It makes no sense. Now, if you're on the left, you continuously cite this, oh, oil and gas isn't viable nowadays, for the simple reason that oil needs to be at 80 or $100 a barrel, whatever number you want to cite. Technically, I mean that's an argument, but it's not a reason to completely go back on it to begin with because other countries seem to have no problem making money off oil where it's currently at, and for the simple reason that I mean, because in the Middle East, they have literally no regulations whatsoever. Now, the oil is a little bit easier to get to, but again, this is natural gas. There's no, I mean, I don't think Saudi Arabia is producing a lot of natural gas. And that's the other thing I wanted to point out too is that I seen an interview of a guy who's going around asking these people, not one, they all thought it was an oil pipeline. They don't even know what they're protesting, and that's why I go to show that these kind of people are so clueless and just crazy. And we need to speak up against this because, I mean, the majority of Canadians wanted the blockade shut down. But the problem with these kind of people, I mean, people on the left in general, but they think that they represent a larger percent of the population than they actually do. That's what whenever you hear about these more to the left people, they always think that they speak for more of the population than they actually do. Just the way they talk. And they'll always say they're moderate, which is just proof that they think they're more percent they're a larger percent of the population than they actually are. They want open borders, they want free healthcare for everyone, they want welfare, which basically socialism, Socialists, maybe 10, 15, 20% of the population if you're lucky, but yet they talk like they're a moderate, or in other words, about half the population. So they're very clueless people, very susceptible to brainwashing, very susceptible to propaganda, all this kind of stuff. And like I said, it's a big issue. And like I say, I think Maxime Bernier or summed it up in a very good way. Now, the reason the left wants to destroy the way society is currently run, like people always wonder, well, why would they want to do that? Why would they want to do that? It makes no sense. Well, they have this utopian way that they view society should be ran, should be operated, the way it should be operated, like socialists and the more far to the left people they always do. And to have their way of running society, they have to destroy the way society is currently being run. And that's why they're doing this kind of stuff. And the reason why I think it's such a big issue is that if they get their way, Canada's done for. I mean, it's already probably done for. If you ask me, if I had to bet, I would bet that Canada is going to have a very major recession at some point. Uh, we're going to learn the hard way that free stuff is not the way to go about things, and diversity doesn't work, and socialism doesn't work, all this kind of stuff. We're going to learn that the hard way in Canada. And the best thing that I can say too is that when the crap hits the fan, just remember the left is going to blame, oh, it's the free market, like all these people say that, oh, well, oil and gas isn't viable, let's invest in green energy, even though the country that has the most green energy in the world, Germany, green energy only accounts for about 20% of the energy they use. This is just how bad and unviable green energy is. That's what I say. The left, most of their criticism, they're just projecting their own BS onto the right. They always, oh, it's actually green energy that's not viable, and yet they always say oil's not viable. Um, Whenever they say that you have to give free healthcare because if you don't, no one else will. Well, they're just no one will pay for them. What they're just saying is that they wouldn't pay. That, oh, how cruel would it be to not help someone in need? Well, conservatives are overwhelmingly religious. The overwhelming majority of Christians donate to charity. People on the studies have been done. People on the right significantly more likely to donate to charity. So it's just the left projecting, and the people who are less and less knowledgeable in certain areas tend to project more and more and more. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, the less you know, the more you think you know. It's like an inverted bell curve, basically, and that's what they do. The thing you can tell about someone who really knows what they're talking about in a topic is that they'll be able to understand their own level of knowledge very accurately. That's basically how you know someone who really knows what they're talking about, and they'll always be more skeptical than they, even if they're an expert in a topic, they probably won't say they're an expert. They'll say they're always learning. That's what I listened to an interview the other day about Sidney Crosby, and one of the best hockey players in the world, and people asked him, well, when you were growing up, was it easy, like how much did you have to practice and all this kind of stuff? And he said, well, no, it wasn't. I practiced a ton because I never thought I was the best. And that's the example with this kind of stuff. But when it comes to the left, they think they know everything. And I know it's a bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to bring it up. But anyway, the video is getting a little long. I'm going to leave it there. If you like the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal. I appreciate any donations I get. And at the very least, stay tuned, hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks.